never before have our learning targets and our expectations of students been as clear as they are.
Proficiency-based grading has made me a better teacher.
The biggest challenge with proficiency-based grading is that it's change, and change is tough for everybody, whether it's students, whether it's teachers.
You know what the criteria is and how you can get there, which is nice.
When I think of proficiency-based grading, I think of it as an opportunity for students and teachers to see where are they on a scale of learning a particular skill.
My school's proficiency-based grading system is a system between 1 and 4, where there's a specific rubric that is graded off of the content of your work, or your preparedness, which is like if you come to class and if your work's done and if you're paying attention and stuff.
Proficiency-based grading is taking skills that we teachers and students and community members think are valuable and putting that at the center of what learning is.
We think that it's, again, a more focused and targeted way of helping young people understand what we think would be good for them to aspire to, and to be able to do a better and more precise job of saying, well, you know what, I'm doing pretty well on this part, and I'm really doing okay here, but this little piece is bugging me. It would be more of a delineation of your status or progress based on individual competencies versus sort of a bucket full of something's stirred together and called a grade. In schools, grades become the tail that wags the dog. Kids are afraid to make mistakes in class because it will hurt their grades, and yet mistakes are how we learn everything.
It's both systems change and it's classroom change too. So if we're making really clear what the targets are for students in the classroom, and then in a proficiency-based system we try to move everyone toward mastery, we have to be really sort of flexible and fluid in terms of the way that we organize instructional opportunities, right? And that assessment happens pretty rapidly all the time. And then there are ways, if somebody needs extra support or extra time or even advancement, that we can be fluid enough in order to do that. Crazy, right? In some ways it's crazy if we don't shift some systems.
I think a lot of the explanation came from teachers, which is why it was so important for teachers to understand the why and the how things are going to work. And then we really learned a lot of it together in the first couple of months, and I just explained it on an individual basis or in small groups a lot. And I held some lunch times where kids could come and talk to me and ask questions about it, and I think that those helped as well.
We did a week of setting up tables during lunch where we said, we'll answer any question you have, and if we can't answer it, we're going to find the answer. And we also will sit and listen to your complaints. So come tell us what you hate, tell us what you love, tell us what's not working. And I think that was a really amazing way to honor the voices of the students, to really hear their fears, to legitimize those fears. And out of that, we were able to find some patterns.
I would say the summer of 2016, I spent a lot of time sort of constructing learning targets and retooling my units to be more proficiency-based, and then implemented them 2016, 2017.
Our school is essentially, now we have a 5-point grading system, so it starts with getting started, then it goes to making progress, then basic proficiency, proficient, and proficient with distinction, which is nice. So when you, rather than just being given like, oh, you got an 80 on this test, you know what the criteria is and how you can get there, which is nice. I think there's still a lot of uneasiness with a lot of students, a lot of anxiety around the grading system.
Students are finding that having the rules change partway through their education is really a difficult thing. I have to learn a new set of rules now.
I think one of the challenges is that it's a tremendous amount of work for the teachers if they're going to do it well. A lot of our teachers felt like they had to scrap a lot of what they did, especially the sequence that they did some of their work, and they had to build backwards from those learning targets, and that's a tremendous amount of work, and it changes the way that they teach and the way they lay out their classes.
The rubric can be very hard to be graded off of, and some teachers for specific tests or subjects grade differently.
Sometimes the extrinsic motivations are the things that really get them going and can light a fire underneath them. And so the idea of deadlines not being as important, the idea of things like grades and class rank and sorting into tracked classes. Those are things that for many years motivated students. I'm going to do my work because I want an A. I'm going to do my work because I want to be in honors next year, or I want to be an AP next year. The idea that the motivation is more intrinsic and about the learning is tough for many students. I mean, they're still pre-adolescents and adolescents, and those are, it's tough to always find that motivating factor. And that's where personalization comes in a lot of ways, and it has that marriage with proficiencies. All of our parents were taught and educated under a more traditional system. And the one thing about human beings is we like ourselves. We think we turned out pretty well. That's a question that I get from parents all the time. They're like, well, you were educated in that type of system and I was, and we turned out okay. So what's the need for this, drastic change? And so selling that change to parents who have a limited amount of time and just want to be able to understand how their student's developing and whether their student is on track, that is, it's a tough sell.
Is that it's really helped our teachers look at their curriculum and ensure that their curriculum from start to finish is accurate and is well thought out, is planned, so that way teachers can really look at the standard and what that standard is, maybe how it fits to the Common Core, how that standard is being taught, how that standard is being assessed, and then how they can make sure they're reaching students that are falling short of meeting proficiency, and then what they can do for those students that are excelling. So it's really brought our teachers together and have allowed us to spend more time on curriculum.
The positives or strengths that it brings is allowing students and teachers to be more reflective about what they really know and don't know. To really sort of pinpoint what it is they know about a skill and what it is they don't know about a skill. And that allows the teacher to sort of help them figure out, what do I have to do to sort of make it to the next.
One of the positives of proficiency-based grading and learning is the clear articulation of what it is that the teacher and the student are working towards. And so that it's, again, eliminate much of the game of school, so to speak, where maybe an accumulation of points and tasks and different things that I could do, and really more about very clearly articulating, here's what I want a student to be able to do and know and understand, and then, as I talked about, kind of report on that. And so I think that when it's clear what the target is, when it's clear what we want people to do, then I think kids can excel and do that. And that we often, one of the things that we find when we start to work on implementation is that teachers, we haven't always known what we want. We've known what we wanted to ask for, but we haven't always necessarily known what that looks like. And so the better then that teachers get at figuring out, well, here's really what I want a student to be able to do, the better they are in instructing that, the better they are giving feedback on that, and then the kids' performance and skills, we've seen kind of skyrocketing growth.
We know that kids are, and all of us as learners, go at different paces, and frankly, through our own, sometimes learning styles or our own dispositions, right? We can learn differently, which is, we've always known that. We just haven't necessarily created systems that can support that. Right?
My hope would be that, one, for technology, we could have a system that teachers, students, parents can access easily, and that all the standards would be in there and the competencies, and that it's a continuous learning model, that for us students would have the whole school year to show proficiency in most of our standards, that we would keep identifying and collecting data on students that are falling short and that are exceeding, and coming up with ways to get that student proficiency and or meet the student that's excelling and satisfy their needs as well. And then my hope would be that that would also give us good reflection on our own best practice of education, and we would take that data and that information and continue to improve our courses.
The biggest hope will be that in the future school becomes more real in what's doing, the outcome of what's being done, the audience for what's being done, the purpose for what's being done. And I think that the proficiency-based, in our case the transferable skills, are essential for that, and blend nicely with that. And they allow us to break down some of the silos that we kind of created into to do things that aren't quite as artificial and are more really long-term, meaningful, and real.
Kids are afraid to make mistakes in class because it will hurt their grades, and yet mistakes are how we learn everything. And so that need to be able to discuss what it is that grades should and shouldn't represent in our lives and how to get that right would be a good outcome.